and welcome back to the Travel Mug podcast. Today, we are pleased to be joined by Ryan Floyd. Ryan is a portfolio manager and founder of Barca Capital, an investment firm out of Massachusetts. So, besides his investment business, Ryan is a lifelong seasoned traveler, having traveled extensively in India starting in his early 20s, and has continued traveling throughout his life for work and personal reasons. So, he is joining us today to talk about his many travels and to discuss what it's like living and working abroad. Welcome to the show, Ryan.
Thanks for having me. Looking forward to it.
Our pleasure.
Yeah, so talk to us about what seems like your first big adventure out into the world in your early 20s, moving to Mumbai. So why did you choose to move there? How impactful was that experience on your life?
It had a huge impact on my life. So I decided to move to India in 2002. It would have been the fall of 2002. In a crazy idea, I thought not many people knew that much about India, as crazy as that is now, but it really wasn't a country on the cover of magazines. I was interested in international issues and international business, and I thought for my lifetime, I wanted some kind of an adventure, and not that many people knew about India, so it'd be a good place to go. I asked the college counseling department, what are my chances of getting a paid job in India? And they said it's really low. They were really bad. They just kind of advised everyone to do consulting and investment banking.
Right.
And I said, how low? And they said, I don't know, it's crazy low, like 1%. And I just thought, well, if I contact 1,000 people, that's probably 10 really good leads. And that's
Right.
basically what happened. And I'm very pleased with that.
Yeah, that's awesome. I feel like not many people would take that answer and decide, heck, let's just go for it and see how many people I can contact and let's get a yes out of this.
It's one of those scenarios like, so you're saying there's a chance.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. A lot of my life is kind of like that, honestly. It's a meme I throw around to my buddies a lot. It's totally true.
Honestly, as it should be.
Yeah.
And we understand you learned Hindi. So did you learn
I
that
did.
prior to moving or did you learn it during your time there? And how difficult was that to learn? Did you take classes, learn on your own? Talk to us about that experience.
Thanks for asking. I'm not great at languages. I took German in school. We had the choice of German, French, and Spanish. I did German 5th through 12th grade and then 1.5 years in college. And then thought, hey, I'll try Spanish for some reason. And I was all right at it. I never got that great. I spent one summer in Spain working for a law firm when I was in college and took some Spanish classes. I was kind of passable by the end of that summer, but I wasn't really fantastic. I liked the idea that I wouldn't be an expat. I wouldn't be going to these fancy clubs or, I don't know, wearing some fancy sweater or something. I would try to live like anybody else with a middle class job. As a 22-year-old, I did honestly, I had friends whose parents were from India, but I really didn't know that much about the country. There weren't many classes in college about South Asia, as crazy as this sounds, and I was kind of starting from scratch. I had a teacher that had been in the foreign service, and he really liked the idea. And he said, "Yeah, you should just do this. Go for it." And believe it or not, the way Americans learn languages is doesn't really work. And this won't surprise anyone that has taken a language in middle school or as an adult that taking a class like 30 minutes a day, 4 days a week, you don't really learn very much. By the time you sit down, then you stand up and your neighbor is poking you and you're bored. You kind of forget it by the summer. I mean, unless you're really good. My wife is
Sure.
really good at languages, but if you're not that good at it, you can get all right. But after 10 years, you'd think you'd be an expert, but actually not really. So he said, um, and it sounds kind of crazy. He said, look, don't go to some language school and don't take it your senior year. You're probably not going to get that far. You want to take a language class with a missionary church, which I didn't belong to, or uh, a immigrant community center that really wanted their kids and grandkids to learn the language. And I like advice that's strange. It's kind of unusual. You don't get it in a book. And I thought that sounds good. So I just started emailing tons of people, and I kind of made a deal with my parents wanted me out of the house, but my grandfather had just gotten in a car accident and separated his shoulder. And we kind of had a deal that if I took him to and from PT, that they would pay for language classes at an Indian cultural center, maybe an hour away. So it was very difficult because in the very beginning, the language was, why did I choose Hindi? India has, I don't know, 40 main languages or
They
so.
do. Yeah.
So it was kind of more out of pride than anything else. I wanted to work in Bombay, the financial center, but actually they speak a kind of Bombay Hindi that is not real. It's not really right, or like real Hindi speakers don't really respect it. And the real language is Marathi. And then there are a lot of Gujaratis there. So it wasn't really the best. I just thought, look, if a third of the people, the 350 million people speak this language, why not learn it? So it's it's a phonetic language though, which is a huge benefit. So once you learn the alphabet, which took a lot of time, you can get up to speed with reasonable ability.
Right.
Um, I l- it was hard to learn it. It's not really an alphabet. There's no song. It's not like A, B, C.
Right.
It goes like ka ka, ga ga. There are words where you're breathing out, and that was kind of difficult. And there's no song. There are some letters that actually are not really in the alphabet, but they're like, you should probably know these. One is a nasal
Wow.
sound, but it's not frequent, but you should know it. But I got pretty decent. It was about 3 or 4 hours a day for 4 days a week for 8 weeks. And I remember very proudly going to the hotel when I first checked in and I arrived in Bombay, and I started speaking Hindi to the guy, and he just spoke English right back. I mean, we've all had this experience. I think
Yeah.
anyone that feels very confident in a foreign language, go to Paris, you speak your French or whatever, and they speak English back to you. But I felt very proud. I never got that excellent. I got a Hindi tutor in my apartment complex. I really liked ghazal, which is a type of music. It's in Urdu, but then I didn't realize that Hindi and Urdu are kind of 80% of the same. So I learned the Urdu script, which I've since lost. But anyway, it's a long answer to your question, but it's a nice question. I'm very proud that I can still
Yeah.
read it.
Mm.
And the fun fact is that it only has 5 or 6 irregular verbs. So anyone who knows a Romance language will really envy this, that if you know to give, to go, to be, and a few others, the rest fall into a pattern. So it's just a matter of memorizing them with flashcards. So anyway, it's a nice question because that was actually a big part of that experience. And
Yeah.
there aren't that many random white guys from suburban Baltimore that could speak Hindi. So I was quite proud of that.
Yeah, for sure. I think that you're totally right that like our kind of North American way of like learning languages, especially with like the rise of like Duolingo and those types of things, like they can be helpful. But like even if you have like your 1,000-day Duolingo, streak, you can't really go to Spain and speak Spanish. Like you might be able to get out a few phrases, but I mean, myself, I took French immersion from grade 7 to grade 12, and like
Oh, wow.
most of my classes were in French. And
Wow.
my French is still like, I mean, I don't use it that much anymore. But similar to you, like my reading comprehension is very good, but my like being able to conjugate verbs and like make a sentence takes a long time in
It's
my
hard.
brain. It takes a long time. And especially where we live in Nova Scotia, we have some native French speakers that speak like it's pretty like franglais. It's very like French and English together. And then
Hmm.
going to Quebec is like a whole different beast. And then going to France is like a whole other French. So it is like, same language, quote unquote, but it is very different.
Yeah. The
The,
nuances for a real.
Yeah.
it's funny. The funny experience is now looking back on 2002, it seemed like maybe 10 or 20 of my very, very close friends were planning some similar adventure.
Hmm.
So this was just part of the water in the time. It wasn't an American arrogance. It was kind of the opposite. Like, I think flights were a little cheaper than they were maybe in the 80s relative to income.
Yes.
And the internet had made it a little easier to find a job, even though it wasn't easy. And maybe we were all just a little bored of our existence. But at the time, I had friends that found jobs in Greece and Italy, Cuba, even Peru, China, Japan. I mean, that was probably half of my closer friends. It's really funny now talking to 20-year-olds at similar colleges. That is just not part of the discussion at all. It's kind of like a binary move to California or not. Like that's maybe the major discussion, and that's about it. And then there's maybe the bucket list of travel and Angkor Wat and this and that. But it's, I don't know that I'm very, I think I'm very lucky that I came of an age during a time that encouraged, let's say, an adventurous spirit.
Yes.
And I'm not against people reinvesting in their community. I think that's absolutely wonderful. It's a little sad, I would say, that maybe it's not part of the lexicon for a 21-year-old to even think at all, how could I try to live and work abroad at some point?
Yeah, even like when I graduated college and high school, like a couple years after that, it was, I mean, and I also live in rural Canada, but it was very much like you graduate college, you go get your grown-up job and you live your life. And I wish that I'd had more people at that point push me, when you're like 20, 22, 23, 24, like you don't need to settle down and buy a house right now. Like you can go out and have a big adventure and
Yeah.
do that before get all of the responsibilities of owning a home and owning a business and all of that stuff.
I I agree with that. I don't know if you have any young people that are listening, I would sort of give a PSA, which is something like there's a lot of focus on credentialism that you absolutely have to do this and that, even that you can't take this or that class because you can't get an A or an A minus. It's quite difficult. And why would you not do this or that thing that leads to this or that credential? It's pretty disappointing. I mean, I think what most of us have found, certainly by 25, certainly 30, I'm now 40 something, but 30 or 40 is that, believe it or not, even in an age of AI, you can really read and learn a lot on your own, independent of classes. And that seems like an impossibility, I think, to talk to a lot of 20-year-olds. Like, oh my gosh, if I don't follow this path that just lands me in the specific spot, I can't really do anything. But gosh, you could just say, well, now it's easier than ever before to reach out to someone, LinkedIn or otherwise, and say,
Yes.
what is your life like? How has it been? Do you recommend this path or not? I often tell young people, just do this. They kind of think I'm a crazy person, but probably like 10, 20% will respond and do a 5 or 15 minute call and then just read. I mean, I think you can kind of teach yourself all kinds of things in your 20s that is quite difficult to do, I think, in your 40s, but you could do it in your 20s and build up a real sense of things that you don't necessarily need to get out of undergrad. Anyway, sorry about the PSA,
No,
but I'll jump
no.
No,
out right now.
no. I think that's really important. And I think that obviously the world has changed a lot from like my parents' generation where went to college, you got it. My dad got a job out of college and worked there, and unfortunately, until the company shut down. And then he had 5 more years until retirement where he had to find another job. But, for kind of our generation, we span a couple decades here, but like we're kind of switching things up. We're like, teaching ourselves things. We're learning new things as we get older. And I think that you don't have to be married to that first job or career type that you got out of college. Like you can explore new things. And
Sounds
I
right.
think that's really important to highlight for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
So India, especially the big cities, and my husband and I watch a lot of like YouTubers who travel to India a lot. So not that I've been, but seeing a little bit of that insight, it can even seem overwhelming, even just watching in terms of the amount of people. So talk to our listeners about your experience in regards to navigating this as a Westerner. Like, how were you able to adapt to the people, the noise, or did you adapt? Talk to us about that experience.
Fun fact is that I arrived with poison ivy. So uh, it was very hot, and I had poison ivy all
Oh my
over
God.
myself.
Oh no.
And so that was an adjustment. I had to have just like lather calamine lotion all over myself. I think in the very earlier days, I wasn't taking the bus or the train as much. I'd stayed in a hotel and I was going into the office to kind of sign HR forms. And there was this horrible government office, kind of like our DMV in the United States, for getting a license that just required an unlimited number of appointments in order to sign up, kind of like a work visa, I guess, for foreigners. It was horrible. But that was like an initial, if you think about a story, that period ended after about 2 weeks. And I remember at 22, I was negotiating this lease in a different currency with a friend of a friend that ended up being my landlord. His wife and children were in the room as I was kind of trying to do numbers in my head of what I was making, which was not a lot in dollars, and then taxes, and then paying this rent and how I would commute. And eventually we figured out a deal, and I just remember like I'm sure all 22-year-olds feel this way, right? Like, oh my gosh, I'm in the real world negotiating rent. I mean, a lot of people don't do that, right? They stay at home and they're on their parents' health insurance until they're 45 or something like this. But for me, it was kind of, I had no choice. What was I going to do? I had to figure out, and he was driving a hard bargain. Eventually, I just said, I don't know how we're going to make this happen, but I don't really have a choice. From there, I commuted by car with a friend. Uh, from our apartment complex. It was a huge apartment complex. Maybe it was many thousands of people. I had my own apartment. I cooked myself breakfast. I really like these idlis, which is like a kind of spongy material that you heat up in a pressure cooker, and I would put it into these spicy spices. So I did that, got in the car. The commute to was maybe 45 minutes or an hour. Frankly, that was the same as in New York City. There were a lot of people. I think what I really liked, honestly, I really liked it and kind of fell in love with this. I'm not going to call it happiness, and I'm not going to say people kind of loved having challenging jobs, but I think Indian people and people that live in Mumbai would all agree that there was definitely a spirit. There is a spirit that you really take pride in your craft, whatever that is. If you're a shoe cobbler, or if you're um, managing a small shop, or if you're going in to be an auditor. I mean, all of those jobs, people really took pride in it, and you were kind of in it together, trying to make it happen. I worked, I don't remember, let's say 6, 9 to 6:45. I didn't stay late. I wanted to get out of there. And then I commuted by bus. There were usually two or three buses, and there were stops along the way. I never, believe it or not, figured out how to read the letters because they don't have a pattern to them. It's not like 29, 39, 49, 59. And could never, I just figured out the shapes of the buses. The,
Whatever
the, sh-
works.
Yeah.
but the buses were packed, and I absolutely had to push onto the bus. I packed in my duffel bag on the way there. Maybe half of the bag was these used books. I kind of bought these, let's call them capital G great books that I wanted to read, and then many kind of Indian classics, let's say. And so I remember I was sort of holding on to the bus as it would move around and reading I mean, in hindsight, it seems like this kind of ridiculous scene of this guy reading Edward Gibbon on an Indian bus, but whatever. I mean, I did, yeah, I was who I was, and I own that, and that's fine. But reading Decline and Fall of the Roman Empire, or these ancient Indian classics like Kautilya's Arthashastra or something like this. I mean, people gave me really weird looks definitely the only white guy within a very long way. I was able to communicate with people. There was this funny mechanism for tickets. You had to keep the ticket in order to get on the next bus. That was a long journey. It was probably an hour and a half, an hour and 45 minutes home. And then I cooked. My friend taught me how to cook. I didn't really know how to chop onions the right way. I cooked dal every night. I basically was vegetarian more or less for 2 years. And dal, spicy vegetables, and rice. Dal chawal sabzi is what we would say in Hindi. And I loved it. I read my book. Sometimes I would hang out with them in the apartment complex, and I would have some sort of mango or pomegranate dessert every night. Uh, my now wife went to rural India, and so she visited me here and there. There were a lot of Indian holidays. So sometimes, I'd say often I was alone, but sometimes I wasn't alone. It was nice to be with her. Um, anyway, it was great. There were a lot of sensory delights. There's a lot, but it wasn't overwhelming. I didn't feel like
Cool.
maybe it's a personality thing. Like, oh my gosh, it's too much. I can't handle it. It was kind of like, oh wow, eyes wide open, just taking it all in. I appreciate the question.
Yeah, yeah. I think that, I currently live in a town of like 3,000 people. And so like thinking about, and I've traveled to some pretty big cities. But like living in a city where it's like constantly busy is like just so different from what I'm used to. And so, obviously people who live there are used to it. Where I live, people are also used to that. So I guess it's just what you experience, right?
I adjusted. I don't really remember, but it didn't take that long for me to adjust. I really was kind of leaning into,
Yeah. You
wow, this
have
is a
to
new part of my
almost.
life. I kind of think if you move to any place when you're 22 out of college, it's a shock to your system, right?
Yeah.
You need to, I call it kind of being potty trained. Like men have to you can't just wear a sweatshirt with mustard stains on it that I would often find myself in the dining hall. You got to get dressed. You got to comb your hair. You're not wearing sweat. Everyone now wears sweatpants. You can't do that. You have to have shoes that look normal. That I think is a shock for a lot of 22-year-olds. So why not do that here or there or some other place? I mean, I didn't really know any better. In hindsight, it was kind of this wonderful learning experience, but I think at the time, if I would have been living in downtown Baltimore, it would have been a huge adjustment too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And so can you think of like maybe what the hardest part was of moving abroad in your 20s and maybe what taught you about yourself as a young human in the world?
Hardest part, really the hardest part was keeping a budget. Taxes took about a third, and then rent took another quarter of what was left or so. So I wish I kept the notes, but I remember my parents saying, "Well, when your father and I were first married, we kept track of all of our expenses, and that helped us know where the money was going." And so I had these little notebooks where I would write down every single expense, and it was very difficult. So like going out to a restaurant was insanely expensive for me. It was an extreme. Uh, it's hard to describe, but it was like an extreme fancy thing. And having a beer, maybe I could have one beer every 2 or 3 weeks. It felt like the equivalent of like $100 or something.
Right.
It was just a huge sum. You just think like, I don't know, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Or like going to the movies maybe was a once every 2 to 4 weeks, and it was hard to get there. You couldn't really take a bus. You had to take a bus, then a taxi. Taxis weren't cheap. So that was difficult. Dal was a pretty inexpensive protein source, and rice was pretty inexpensive, and the spices were pretty inexpensive, and coffee too. So, but little things like I would often shower with no hot water because the hot water was pretty expensive, or I wouldn't turn on the hot water to shave in the morning. I would heat it up on the gas stove that I was anyway using to make idli. look, I'm not trying to claim that it was a choice, right? So this is play act. It's not really fair for me to say, oh, it was so difficult because obviously hundreds of millions of Indian people were living like this. But certainly it gave me a humility for real and an ability, I think, to manage a budget. And it was kind of a shock to come back to the
Yeah.
United States and do the conversion in my head. Like those jeans would have cost me a month's rent or something. It makes me kind of sad in hindsight because now I, of course, wouldn't even really think twice about buying some this or that pair of jeans. But like at the time, it was very, very tricky. That was good. Now I work in investing in businesses that are catering to consumers like this. So it really helps having had that experience as a consumer. Here's another one is just the washer dryer situation was very challenging. So the dryer basically ripped up the clothes. So there was always this, and even the washer just wasn't great. So I remember rolling into my time in India, let's say with this skeptical 90s outlook. So we were all kind of told in the 90s, like everything's stupid, man, it's all dumb. You should just check out and consumerism is lame and it's all dumb. Usually told by kids whose parents have a pretty good job, by the way.
Sure, of course.
And so you're like, yeah, check out. Well, here I was primed basically with some of that philosophy, let's say, just thinking like, oh my gosh, if only I could afford a nice washer dryer. Like that would change my life. Now it's like ripping up my pants once every other week. Like
Right.
a nice or I buy this doll that has some bugs in it. If only it would, maybe I should buy the doll that has a brand that's 40% more. Like, is it worth me paying for that or not? And I quickly I lost that 90s, it's all lame, man. Maybe I did it. Maybe I still feel that way. I don't know. I can't help it. This child of the 90s, I still have this
Maybe you lost it temporarily. We'll go with
reality
that.
bites monologue a little bit, but you kind of just see it's sort of hypocritical, like
Yeah.
or like Cameron at my kids watch Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Like Cameron at Ferris Bueller's Day Off, like his dad seems horrible, but maybe his dad was just like, well, I don't know. Anyway, maybe I shouldn't say that. I'll get canceled for saying his dad wasn't that bad. But anyway, I think like growing up in that era, certainly I wouldn't have appreciated that a nice washing machine actually is like a nice material good that's worth saving for.
Yeah. The days you start, agreeing with the parents in the movies, you're like, oh, okay.
That's where I'm at.
Okay. For sure. So you've traveled a lot, not just to India, but for work. So
Sure.
talk to us about the difference in your mind between work and leisure travel. And how do you kind of make the most of being somewhere new while also like navigating working?
That's a good question. So, before the kids were born, my wife and I would take trips that I had to do for work. So we went to Vietnam, we went to Indonesia, and I would often meet people for work purposes, and then we would have some delightful trip. And that was really nice. It's much harder with kids along, but we've kind of thought like, can we combine these worlds in some capacity without it being like a very snob, I don't know how to say this, like a snobby thing that's like, ooh, wow, you brag about it,
Mm.
that my dad travels for work or something like this. So, uh, honestly, when I take a trip for work, I don't hang back and just read a book on the beach. I've never been able to do that with or without kids. Like, I don't know. I don't really enjoy that kind of thing very much. I don't enjoy the beach very much personally. I mean, it's a full disclosure. I've never really liked that. And so I'm just not going to be the type that'll
Yeah.
hang back. What I have done is hired this or that tour guide. So when I was in
Right.
Athens, I hired a tour guide to take me this or that place. Or I recently went to Sao Paulo. This is a really first time, but I'm a real believer in adult sports. Like, and I play the piano. Like, these are not things that we do from age 7 to 13 and then you quit and you just watch Netflix the rest of your life. The things that generally speaking are good when you're 12 are good when you're 42 also. So, a friend helped organize a pickup soccer game. I'm like solidly mediocre soccer player. Like I can make myself dangerous, but I am not that, I don't know, not that great. But it was amazing to play these 6-on-6 games. It was in the evening, so it didn't detract from actual work that I had to be there for. And my goodness, I had a sense that, and usually cultural generalities aren't amazing because you can kind of get them off. And as a foreigner, you might only see one side. But I don't think I'm wrong in saying I've been to Brazil a handful of times, and there is something really wonderful about a culture of, I think it's kindness, openness. I didn't prepare this in advance, but the kind of openness, sense of humility, sense of humor, and things like sports and music is just top notch. It was really lovely to combine these in an evening and not get too badly banged up or hurt or embarrassed or anything like this. So
Even better.
what I've tried to do here and there is just kind of insert it in a way that is, say, culturally relative, because doing business in different countries, it really matters that you understand the place, so you
Yeah.
don't bump into things that, or that's not the right word, but so you don't do something stupid,
Yeah.
which Americans always do. So I'm always trying, I don't know, to be reasonably sensitive, and also it's just fun. It's
Yeah.
fun to do things beyond just, oh wow, there's a clock tower and I don't know, let's have a caipirinha and I don't sit on the beach. Like that's just not really, that's not so much my style.
And I love that. Like, I think, being able to know the people in truly the place and what people there enjoy doing while you're also doing business is an amazing way to look at it. And if you were to flip things around then, Ryan, what would you say is, a place or places, favorite places for leisure travel when you're not working? Where do you like to go on actual vacation?
I like, I live in New England and I really like, let's say, the lungs of New England. There are all of these tall trees. I only really recently figured out that there was this fight between the colonists in Great Britain over the tall trees in New Hampshire because they were the masts of the British Navy throughout the whole world. And traveling New Hampshire, you certainly feel that way. I'm not against just getting in the car, putting on the Allman Brothers, and finding a diner, and now these days an Airbnb, and I don't know, this or that silly family thing. Maybe, I don't know, a craft brewery or something. I mean, I don't think I'm that terribly special in that respect. I have been sort of thinking, gosh, if I've been to all these places, uh, it would be nice to kind of route the family in this direction in some way that they can see some of this excitement and experience in the same way that my wife have too. My wife and I have. And that's happening, and that's been nice. Not having any car seats helps.
Yeah.
Um, but I think in terms of what what kind of preferences I have, it's the same preferences as anybody else. Although someone told me the other day that this is unusual. One thing I do like to do when I go to a place, I really like eating the sweets. And I am a reasonably healthy guy, so I don't have any blood pressure issues or anything like this. Um, but I love how the sweets are different in each country. Most countries have coffee, which I enjoy, but the Indian sweets, or like I was in Georgia, the country a couple years ago, the sweets in Georgia are really delicious. Brazil has these bakeries all over the place. Often I'll kind of arrive in the morning and it's like leave no sweets behind. I feel kind of bad. I feel sort of, maybe it's not the healthiest example, but I think it's great. It's like often I'll show up at the bakery and the person behind the bakery will kind of have a twinkle in his or her eye, like, I know you're not from around here. People usually don't eat this much at once. Like, what are you doing here, buddy? Um, but the kind of coffee walk, and I don't really love, I mean, honestly, even for work, like I don't love stopping and having these long, I don't know, sandwich type lunches, but I don't mind loading up on some sort of set of pastries or something in a different place.
Yeah.
Uh,
Sugar to fuel your day. I mean,
Oh,
I'm here for it.
yeah, like 100%. We're going to Copenhagen later this year, and I already have a list of like bakeries, and I'm like, should we do this like pastry food tour? We probably should do a pastry food tour. I mean, why not?
I would say
Exactly.
yes, absolutely.
I don't think Ryan's
Yeah,
going to steer you in a different direction at this point now that we've
No,
learned this about him.
no,
absolutely.
no, that's
Yeah,
a
for
great
sure.
idea.
For
And I,
sure. I don't have any secrets for this. Like I had thought AI would help find this bakery or something, but like the map functionality is not perfect.
Mm.
You can kind of get a very rough idea, like, well, I shouldn't go in that direction. I should go in that direction. And more, it's just driving by. I'll just say, "Hey, stop, stop!" I gotta get out and uh, just tell the taxi guy like hop out and buy some things.
Yeah.
Um, I've never been a huge fan of. I think maybe it's just a personality style, like sit and chill and just kind of chill abroad and take pictures. I'm not on Instagram, but like take pictures and just say how awesome it is chilling. Like that's just never been my style. I like weird museums. I like walking around. I really like, I don't know. Honestly, I don't mind just having a journal after a long day. I often will ask a host or a friend, like, I don't want to go to a white tablecloth place. Like, where's a place your grandmother would go? And it usually is a lot of meat. I
Yeah.
don't know why, but like sitting with the journal and maybe a beer and a big thing of protein or even dal and rice or something is like one of life's great pleasures to me.
yeah,
Yeah.
you're definitely a friend of the podcast, Ryan, because we enjoy like very much of the same
It's
things. And
Yeah.
great.
I've been to New England so many times I can't count, and I think it's a beautiful part of America for sure. And I think that the idea, we talk about this a lot on the podcast, is travel doesn't have to be international. Travel could also and should also be local.
Yeah.
Exploring where you live, supporting businesses and people where you live is also really important. So I think that that's an important point as well. It doesn't always have to be a grand trip somewhere. It can be
Yeah,
a weekend
absolutely.
away.
Yeah,
Yeah,
for sure.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of have two sides where on the one hand I walk around with my eyes up, seeing the things around me and really loving it and appreciating it, but sometimes it's hard to get out of my own head. Maybe we all feel like that.
Yeah.
And when you're walking around a new place that's different, I think I think probably generally being in your own head all the time is not a great way of living all the time. So being in a new place, wherever that is, with this or that diner or this or that, I don't know, walk into the woods is generally a good way to be.
Yes, I
Agreed.
love that. 100% agreed. So you have been to over 80 countries, is that
Something
right?
like this,
Yeah.
yeah.
So is there a country that surprised you the most in terms of it being maybe not what you expected it to be before you went?
Well, I think everybody everywhere is kind of like that. I would say generally to the positive, there is a kind of to the joy of new things.
Hmm.
And this is maybe not everybody feels this way. Some people just want to be with their cat, in their living room all the time, but maybe I think probably we were all like a hub and a spoke where you want that time, but then you want to go out and just push yourself a little bit and get outside of your comfort zone. So I think everywhere, I don't remember the line, it might be from Tennyson. It's like, I am everywhere that I've been or something. Everywhere that you go is a little different than you really expect.
Hmm.
And that's wonderful. I'll say it's been fun just randomly being pulled to just off the top of my head. Like, I really like in Peru that you have Spanish architecture sitting right on top of Incan architecture, which is just a great metaphor for the way the world evolves. History is often like that, where maybe you only maybe you only really see the Spanish part and you don't see the foundations, but it's really neat actually to see those two combined. I've really enjoyed visiting Tbilisi in Georgia, which is just a beautiful city with all these coffee shops. The Georgian, I don't know what it would be called, but let's say art or design or kind of these bright colors all over the place, women's scarves. That was a real treat. Also, I've been to Lagos, Nigeria, a handful of times. I love the sort of spiritedness of the people, so friendly, but also like a go-get 'em attitude that I really like. Um, I had never been to Vietnam until, I don't know, 30s or so. I really liked going there too. Just people incredibly friendly, also really hardworking. The food is just so good,
Yeah.
and there are so many little spots. I love it when a country has like a bazillion towns. Each town is different. You can take a train or a car there. Each one kind of open your eyes. Oh wow, this is totally different.
Hmm.
Um, but gosh, the list, you know, then is really endless.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, I've really, I mean, I know I keep saying this, but I've enjoyed I didn't grow up in New England, but I've enjoyed exploring New Hampshire and Vermont in particular, with a lot of little towns and tall trees.
Yeah, it's beautiful. So beautiful there. And speaking of lists, so where do you have next, if you do, on your list that of a place you'd like to be that you go and travel to that you've not done yet?
Oh gosh, it's a good question. I'm enjoying exploring Central Asia, which is a place that I hadn't really spent much time there. I've been a bit, and so I don't know, excited to get to know that region of the world a little bit better. I think it's not a place, but I really enjoyed playing soccer for an evening in Brazil, which was brand new, and maybe I'll never do that again, or maybe that's the beginning of something else. So I had this idea of like a hotel chain that had pickup games attached to it, and that's not going to happen, but I just love that idea. Like, hello, Mr. Floyd. You signed up for volleyball at 7 p.m., followed by 3-on-3 basketball, and then you'll have a nightcap with shuffleboard. Welcome. I just think that would be absolutely amazing. Uh, but obviously, there's no brand doing that. But I've kind of thought, like, gosh, it would be fun to do some adult sports in some pickup game or something, at least once a year,
Hmm.
wherever I'm going.
Yeah.
And uh, let's see if I'm able to do that. But I think that is probably the thing that I will try to do. I play lacrosse. It doesn't age that well, but I still play. And I hadn't realized it's going to be an Olympic sport, and there are some 100 countries that actually have a team. So
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
know, TBD on what that looks like if I could play or coach or something like that while traveling.
Yeah. I think that's a really great idea. And I think that it kind of highlights something that a lot of people are missing in their lives, which is like community, like getting out there and doing something with other people. I think that our lives have generally trended to be like home and like I don't know about you, but like I work from home and then I finish work for the day. I go downstairs. My husband also works from home. We cook dinner and then it's like, okay, now what are we gonna do? And sometimes it's like 6:30 and it's like, okay, I can't start watching Netflix at 6:30 for like 3 hours. Like that's a waste of my life. I need to find something to do. And so finding things, I'm not so much sporty, but like finding groups of people who like to craft and like going together and like knitting together and chatting and having a pot of tea. And like we actually had someone join our crafternoon recently who was traveling from BC, and she saw the post online and like came and hung out with us for an afternoon. And
I
like
love that.
how lovely that was for us and for her to be able to just have someone new to talk with and hear their
That's amazing.
perspective. Yeah.
What do you
So
make? What do you make in the
well,
afternoon?
I'm learning to knit, so my goal is to knit socks. So I think I'm ready. I've made like 1,000 dishcloths, so I think I'm ready to move on from dishcloths.
How hard is the hinge?
It's like, I mean, it's not too bad. Like, I think I'll find out. Like,
We'll get back to you on that
yeah,
apparently.
yeah.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah, so I think that is something that people maybe don't think of when they're traveling, to think to like, oh hey, I like to play soccer. Maybe I'll look and see if I can join like a pickup game, or hey, I like to craft. Maybe there's a group that I can join for an afternoon. So I love that tip, and I'm gonna take that forward and think about how I can apply that.
Sounds great. Yeah, I mean, it was a blast.
Yeah.
Uh, it helps that I'm not that good.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's like enthusiasm goes a long way in life, I think. He's sort of the
It
goofy
does.
guy.
Yeah, yeah. I love that. Awesome. So, is there anywhere online that people can find you, or if people want to follow up with you about your business or anything like that?
Sure, sure, sure. So, just compliance wise, it's not an offer to buy or sell anything. Obviously, I'm not promoting any stocks or anything like that. But if you want to reach out and say hi and talk about where you're traveling or interesting things that you're doing, I'm on LinkedIn. My name's Ryan Floyd, and my company's website is Barca, Barca capital.com. And feel free to reach out.
Awesome.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Ryan. This
Yeah,
is
thank you
a
guys. It was really nice
this
talking with you.
you too. It's a really insightful conversation. I think a lot of good snippets that people can take away and try to think about as they travel out into the world as well. So thank you for that. And as for us, you can find us on our website, travelmugpodcast.com, on social media, Travel Mug Podcast. We love it if you showed us some love by leaving us a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. You can support the show through Buy Us a Coffee or share the show with a travel loving pal. And until next time, bye everyone.
Bye.
Bye bye. Thanks so much.